Hi guys, my name is Stuart, and today I'll be explaining my social research, and the title of my social research is The Analysis of Using the English Language Within St. John's Catholic School for the Students of 2020. So, let me give you a bit of a background first. So this is just the introduction, and then we'll get to the slides later. We'll get to the charts, the slides, all that research later. So today I'm gonna explain what my video is about first. So if you see within the slide after this, you can see that there are two slides. The first slide, which is the left slide, is for people who have been in St. John for less than a year. The second slide, which is the right side, right slide, is used for the students who have been in St. John's for more than a year. So I like to compare their fluency, their mastery on the language, because my study is about linguistics, about the use of language and the effects of using a foreign language or a non-native language. So let me give an abstract. So why did I start this research? Why did I choose this research as my topic? So the main reason is that, as you know, St. John Catholic School is a National Plus school, and we use the English language on a daily basis as our language that we use for doing tests. It's written in English. For studying, it's written in English. Everything is written in English. That's what is meant by using English on a daily basis. But from what I observed and from what the results of my research, I find it hard to believe that students of St. John Catholic School would actually use English on a daily basis. I found that from my observation, my research, they don't use English that much, actually. They're more fluent in the Indonesian language, and there's actually a reason why. And so my research is to prove why is the fluency not even? Why is the fluency different between non-native language and a native language? So this is all for the introduction, and enjoy the video. It's me, Stuart, back at it again. So before I start this presentation, I forgot to say some important info before I start my presentation. I know that I'm supposed to start my presentation now, but I'd like to say that, there's supposed to be 15 charts, but I only put 9 charts. That's because I found the other 6 charts to be not valid. Like, they're part of the factors, but they're not the important factors. So that's why I just put 9 charts in. So that's all for it, and let's begin with the presentation. So let's start with the first slide. Now, the first slide is the time of stay. As you can see, there are 2 charts, the left chart and the right chart. The differences between these 2 charts are that the left chart shows the new population, while the right chart shows the old population. This shows the difference of the time of stay, of how long have they been within St. John's Catholic School. Now, this might not seem to be very important, but it actually is very important, because as we go on with this video, you'll understand why is time of stay so important for the students within St. John's Catholic School. It changes the way we see things. It changes how it affects fluency and mastery. Now on to the next slide. So here we are, the second slide. So as you can see, on the left we have the population new, and on the right we have the population old. So let's start with the population new, as always. So within the population new, as we can see, the fluency rate of the English language is about 13%, while the Indonesian fluency rate is about 67%, and that the fluency for both languages is about 20%. Now let's go to population olds chart for fluency. Let's see the population olds fluency chart. So 26% fluent in English, 40% fluent in Indonesian, and 34% fluent in both. So as we can clearly see a difference in fluency. Now this is actually heavily affected by the last slide, time of stay. So experience, the longer you've been here, affects your fluency, because you've been learning the English language for more. Means that you've been exposed for the English language for more time. The more time you spend in the school, the more fluent you will be. Next slide. Okay, so now we're at the third slide. Now the third slide is understanding. Understanding means how well the students understand the language. Can they comprehend it? Can they understand it? Can they understand what people are saying in these languages or not? So let's start with population new. Population new has an understanding rate of English of 13%, For both languages, 20%, and for the Indonesian language, 67% understanding rate, while the population old has an English understanding rate of 47%, an Indonesian understanding rate of 40%, and a 13% understanding rate for both. So as we can see, fluency heavily affects understanding. So each slide is actually connected to one each other. So the more fluent you are, the more you can comprehend, the more you can understand. You can understand what the material is in that certain language. Next slide. Now we're at the fourth slide, which is incomprehension. Incomprehension is the polar opposite of comprehension. It is the misunderstanding rate, or how hard it is to understand the lesson because of that certain language, because you don't understand the language. So it's called the misunderstanding rate or the incomprehension rate, how you don't understand something. So let's try to see the incomprehension rate for population new. So the incomprehension rate for population new for English is 74%. The incomprehension rate for Indonesian, for the new population new line, is 13%. The incomprehension rate for both languages in population new is 13%. Let's compare it with population old. So the population old population has an incomprehension rate for English about 40%, for both languages 34%, and for the Indonesian language 26%. So as we can see, the incomprehension rate for English is higher in population new rather than in population old. This is because of fluency, time of stay, and other factors that I will get to after this. Next slide. Now we are at the fifth slide, which is mastery. So mastery is how well or how good you are at the type of language, how mastered you are. Have you fully mastered that language? Have you fully become a master at it? It is different from understanding and fluency. Mastery is if you've completely understood everything and you've become a master at it, like you got a degree at it. So now let's see the mastery rate for the population new. The population new mastery rate for Indonesian is 80%. The population new's English mastery rate is 13%, while for both mastery rates, it's about 7% for population new. Now let's go to the population old mastery rate. The population old mastery rate for English is 47%. For the Indonesian language, it's about 47%. So it's the same. And for both languages, the mastery rate for population old is 6%. So as we can see, the more time you have, the more time you're in St. John's Catholic School, the more you'll understand, the more you can be more fluent. If you're being more fluent, you can understand, and after you understand, you can be a master at it. So everything's connected. So the next slide, let's go. So now we're at the sixth slide, which is the mother tongue. So the mother tongue means your first language, the first language that you spoke, your baby language. So why it's called the mother tongue, the first language that you spoke. So it's a mother to you. So this started my entire research. This mother tongue, the theory of the mother tongue, started my entire research. So what is the mother tongue and why is it so important? Well, it is stated that within this research, people who have a mother tongue, for example, Indonesian as their mother tongue, they will be more fluent. They will be a master at it naturally, rather than people whose non-native language is not Indonesian. So it's like this. As you know, we use the English language as our primary language, which is a non-native language. And based on this research, we will never be as good as naturals, aka people whose mother tongue is in English. It will take a longer time for us to master this language, for us to be fluent in this language, because our mother tongue isn't English. Now that's the main problem about linguistics. So now let's see the first chart, which is the population new. As always, on the left, the mother tongue, 100% Indonesian. The population old's mother tongue, 20% English, 80% Indonesian. So as you can see, most of us, our mother tongue is Indonesian. So the first language we speak is Indonesian. It means that we're more fluent in Indonesian and we are way better at speaking language because of our mother tongue. So that's all for the last slide, which is conclusions. So these are the conclusions that I drew from those 9 charts. So the first point that I would like to explain is that experience will affect fluency heavily. So as you know, the longer you've been in St. John's Catholic School, Since in St. John's Catholic School, we use the English language as our primary language, our day-to-day language. It is for the tests. The written test is in English. Everything's in English. So the longer we've been in St. John's Catholic School, the longer we've been studying it, the more fluent we'll be. So that is what is meant by experience will affect fluency. The next point is mastery on a certain language is heavily affected by the mother tongue. So, for example, my mother tongue is English. The first word I spoke was mom. So because my mother tongue is in English, I'm more fluent in English than in Indonesian. That is who I am. But it can be different for other people. For example, Dimas's mother tongue is Indonesian. He has a hard time mastering the English language because his mother tongue is in Indonesian, because it's harder to master a non-native language than a native language because we are not as exposed to that language. That's why mother tongue is actually extremely important. So that's why mastery on a certain language is heavily affected by the mother tongue. Now that's all for today. The end of my presentation. I'd like to say thank you for listening to my 10 minutes presentation. Sorry if it was a bit shaky, but my message was language is more important than it seems. Thank